In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Flash 104 titled Going Rogue. If you have not had a chance to rewatch 104, go rewatch 104 and go watch this review so you know what I'm talking about in the video. Again, it's part of the rewatch series I'm doing for the Flash. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. 104, I remembered pretty much everything in this episode. I read the title, I knew exactly what this episode was, because it is an amazing episode. It opened up with a really cool sequence of Barry, like, multitasking, using his speed between ping pong, Operation, and doing chess with Wells. And obviously he lost at chess, because you need time to think with chess, but Operation and ping pong with Cisco, he beat Cisco and Kate at both of them, and it was a really funny, but also, like, really cool scene to see Barry, like, learning multitasking with his speed now. And then we see Snart for the first time, Leonard Snart, Captain Cold, and he was doing a robbery, and the three showed up, Barry showed up to stop it, and someone ended up getting hurt, and he focused on them more than Snart, because he's not fast enough to do that, which even then, in season 4 or 5 of Flash, I mean, he still does that, so that's not really an excuse at this point. I mean, for this point in the show, I guess it is, but season 4 and 5, I mean, when Barry just stands there and watches the villain walk away, I mean, you know, what's the point in that? But it was still a really cool sequence to see. And speaking of Snart, he got his cold gun due to Cisco for making that gun, which is how he betrayed Barry in this episode. Because Cisco didn't trust Barry entirely, so he made a cold gun to stop Barry, because, you know, the best thing to stop speed is with cold. Absolute zero mixed with velocity does not mix, which is scientifically proven, by the way. It's not like some random BS they made up. Like, if you try to freeze something that's moving like 60 miles an hour, like a rolling ball or something, it will most likely either A, just slow it down, or B, freeze it entirely in place. But it's really cool because Barry's healing factor got affected because he got hit. Now, that doesn't entirely stick in season 2, I think it was. Let's say explained why. I don't remember them explaining why, but it was still a cool, unless, like, you're gonna say, like, Barry's fast in season 2, so it doesn't really affect him as much as it did now, but still, it's really cool to look back on him, you know, be like, yeah, they did some really cool stuff here. Joe was giving Iris a silent treatment because, you know, the whole thing with Joe is that he doesn't want Iris dating any of his partners, because then he's going to be focused on making sure they come home at the end of the day, and if they do die in the field, you know, what's going to happen to Iris, what's going to happen with all that whole story. He's worried that he could affect Iris by losing someone she cares about, and it being Joe's partner. He wouldn't be able to live himself. And how would Iris look at Joe if that had happened? And so I think where Joe's coming from is very, very reasonable. Iris is just stubborn, and, you know, in the later seasons, Iris becomes a little bit, well, not a little bit, really selfish. But in, you know, season 1, I think Iris is more just, like, kind of learning Joe's whole stick of, you know, what it's all going to be about for, just, you know, the relationship between Joe, Eddie, and Iris is going to even be like. Will it be the same with Joe and Eddie, and Iris and Eddie, or is it going to be different? It's obviously different between Joe and Eddie. We saw this episode, but, you know, later on, what would that be like? And that's a very interesting dynamic they went with these two characters, these three, I guess, for Iris. But especially with Eddie being stuck in the middle, seeing him try to be friendly to Joe and then being with Iris to try to ease things up, but Joe's not really budging because why would he? You know, it's a really good writing sequence for Joe, I think. It's probably one of the better arcs Joe's had in the series, to be honest, from what I remember. Because I think in season 6, he left in season 9, but, like, season 8, Joe was great in, you know, but he didn't really have an arc. Like, he was off, you know, he was retired, he was having Barry out whenever he could, but it wasn't a lot he was doing. In season 1, I mean, he was still a cop. He was, rising up through the ranks and becoming the most informed cop in the precinct and the CCPD. Because no one knew about the Flash and no one knew about, any of what's going on in the city besides Joe, because he's in relationship with Barry. But speaking of Barry, again, Felicity showed up, which is really cool. I feel like Barry and Felicity always had that good relationship. They did kiss in the episode. Now, I don't, it's whatever, but I prefer Felicity with Oliver than Barry with Felicity, but, I get why they were doing that. It's not like I was like, oh, it's just some random thing, but, like, it would have been really nice to not explore that relationship, but to explore their friendship more. And I feel like over the history of The Flash, we never really got that. Like, it would have been so cool in season 9 of The Flash if Felicity came back and, like, worked with Barry one last time. Not particularly during 909, but, like, maybe, like, 906 or 907. It would have been cool to see Felicity one last time in the Arrowverse working with Barry. Since she was part of Flash's first season, I think twice, it would have been really, really cool to have her involved in that in some way. But, schedules and assuming Emily Dean want to come back, or maybe she did, but they didn't hire her. Who knows? But it still would have been cool to see her and Barry work together one last time. But nonetheless, again, they did kiss, and I have my own opinions about that, but their friendship is really, really good. And obviously Felicity cares about Barry because they were close when he was in Arrow 208. I think it was, or 219. It was 208, I think. Could be wrong. Of Arrow. Was Barry's first appearance, and then 209, I think he appeared in as well. But, yeah. I mean, it's just weird to see where everyone ended up. And I think I said this last few episodes that I've reviewed. It's just weird to look back and compare it to now and be like, Oliver and Felicity have 2 kids, but Barry and Felicity kissed way back then. What if things were different? What if Barry and Felicity did end up being the couple here, of The Flash and Arrow? Like, yeah, there were 2 different characters on 2 different shows, but, I mean, that would have been really, really interesting to pull off. Have, like, 2 characters be each other's love interest, but on 2 different shows. That would have been crazy. Because it probably would have led to, I think, people being irritated that we're not seeing them enough. But it also probably would have helped Barry just be the Flash, so he can focus on being the Flash and not, 20 different people going on. That would have been very, very interesting to see. But, maybe Felicity would have been moved to Arrow then, or Flash then, instead of Arrow, if that was going to be the case, I would assume. But it was, yeah. It's an interesting dynamic between these 2 characters in the episode. I'm kind of glad I didn't continue with that relationship. The friendship I don't mind, but the kissing and that can stay in the past. And it's really cool that was brought up to Oliver during the Vixen animated show. If you didn't watch that, I didn't really watch it either. I saw clips of it. But it was a really funny scene between Barry and Oliver when Barry mentions that he kissed Felicity and Oliver just found out. But yeah, I mean, Captain Cold, Barry fighting Captain Cold and watching someone dying from him with the cold gun because it wasn't fast enough to outrun the cold gun, which, speed inconsistency aside, who really knows how fast that beam was traveling? So I'll leave it up to, Barry just not knowing how to use his speed fully yet. And he was trained to become faster. It wasn't like he was just, sitting aside and not really doing anything. He wanted to be faster. It's just, where's that all going to go down to? And it is very interesting to see all that play out. So, yeah. I think I pretty much covered everything. And, we saw Grodd in the episode, which is really cool. I think it's the first time we ever saw Grodd. He does look different, I think, in the episode that he first appears in, which is later on in the season. But Thawne was talking to Grodd, talking about his future and giving a different future than what Eiling was going to give Grodd. So, which we kind of already knew about going into this, that Thawne works with Grodd and basically raises Grodd to become who he is later on. And it's really cool to see it all come together. But yeah, overall, 9 out of 10 episode. I think it's the best episode of the series on the last 4 episodes that I've reviewed. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a good day. Have a good night. Stay safe. And I'll see you in this video. Bye, guys.